All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're putting on our analyst hats and peeling back the shiny, gilded facade of our established institutions. We want to figure out exactly how they can completely collapse into just pure terrifying retribution. To do this, we're unpacking a really rich, honestly pretty dark philosophical fable that uses classic psychological archetypes, the id, the ego, and the superego, to show us how society's most highly esteemed halls of justice can actually rot away from the inside out. Let's get into it. We're going to break this whole story down into 5 distinct acts. Act 1, the Gilded Hollow. Act 2, the Mask of Virtue. Act 3, the Void Mirror. Act 4, the Architecture of Retribution. And finally, Act 5, the Spirit of Becoming.
So, Act 1, the Gilded Hollow, where we meet our archetypes of order.
Picture this. We're in a theater of shadows, surrounded by these golden facades, and right in the center sits the High Judge, clutching his gavel on a massive throne of established order. Psychologically speaking, he is the superego of our societal mind. Now, on the surface, this guy represents moral virtue and the illusion of value that basically holds society together. But there's a catch. His authority is actually driven by this sterile desire for safety. It's a super rigid, almost desperate attempt to protect the weak by freezing everything exactly as it is, which entirely suffocates any kind of vibrant, dangerous pursuit of growth.
And that brings us to the polar opposite, von Nitz, the tarantula. This represents our primal id. Imagine this tarantula crouching in the damp, dark spaces right beneath the floorboards of the judge's courtroom. Von Nitz isn't just someone with a different opinion. No, he's the active embodiment of resentment. Driven by this really dark hunger for revenge, he's basically a preacher of nothingness. He just sits there in the dark, spinning his webs and whispering against absolutely anyone who dares to strive for greatness, insisting that reaching for the heights is somehow a crime against the safety of the dust.
Now, stuck right in the middle of these two forces is our villain, the Jester. Typically, the ego's entire job is to harmonize things, to find a balance between the strict superego and the primal id. But not this ego. No way. The Jester is a total nihilistic deconstructor. He dances around, mocking everything, holding up the sacred symbols of the judge's authority like they're just hollow toys. Instead of balancing the mind, he actively feeds the tarantula's resentment, just to expose the underlying decay in both of these forces.
Moving on to Act 2, the Mask of Virtue and the Web of Equality.
This is where the tarantula starts weaponizing language. Von Nitz starts preaching about a web of equality. But, as we're learning here, this isn't some beautiful social ideal. It is a completely deceptive shield. The tarantula is literally using the concept of virtue to mask its own deep, festering envy. The goal of this web has nothing to do with fairness. It's meant to bind the great in chains, to stop any soul from ever surpassing its own limitations, and to make sure that all lives remain, and this phrase is just chilling, flat, and sterile as a tomb. And the Jester is right there, helping facilitate this suffocating trap. He basically stages this metaphorical play that exposes the High Judge's legalistic principles for what they really are. He convinces the superego that his rigid laws are nothing but a clever disguise for the venom of envy. The Jester completely mocks the idea of self-overcoming, tearing down the judge's moral high ground and proving that, honestly, the established order and the tarantula's resentment are cut from the exact same cloth.
Which brings us to the climax, Act 3, the Void Mirror and the Shattering of the Superego.
Check out the tool the Jester uses to pull this off, the Void Mirror. Now, this isn't your everyday bathroom mirror. It's this uncanny psychological reflection that strips away absolutely all moral justifications. When the High Judge is forced to look into it, he doesn't see some noble protector of justice staring back at him. Nope, he is forced to witness his own raw, unfiltered core. He realizes in real time that his strict legalism is actually just a purposeless, burning desire to punish.
And wow, that realization just ignites the inferno of nihilism. The gavel dissolves, the old symbols of power completely melt away. The High Judge, our superego, and the tarantula, the id, literally merge together. And from this horrible union, a new monster is born, the Red Judge. This skeletal nightmare doesn't even pretend to uphold the law or care about the weak anymore. He is defined 100% by a thirst for punishment that exists purely for its own sake.
This takes us into Act 4, the Architecture of Retribution, or Active Nihilism.
So now, the Jester is standing triumphant over the absolute wreckage of order, and we see the true architecture of retribution that takes over.
First, the law isn't a path to greatness anymore. It becomes a monument to destruction. Second, the red judge drops his gavel and picks up a branding iron, leaving permanent, silent scars on the world. And finally, the tarantula gets exactly what it wanted. The mountain path of greatness is abandoned entirely, and that suffocating web of equality reigns supreme over the dust. The most terrifying revelation here, the one the Jester really wants us to see, is that the original system was never truly built on justice in the first place. The whole shebang was just a mask for decay. It was always a purposeless machine of revenge, just sitting there waiting to be activated, perfectly designed to let the human spirit of becoming rot away in the suffocating safety of the dust.
But, thankfully, we have Act 5, the spirit of becoming, and a figure known as Das Wanderer. The fable doesn't just leave us in the dust. We pivot away from all this nihilistic wreckage toward a really powerful philosophical alternative, Das Wanderer. While the Jester was just a catalyst for destruction, Das Wanderer is the creative architect of the self. He looks at the exact same societal decay that the Jester saw, but he makes a radically different choice. He completely rejects that suffocating safety. He chooses transcendence over nihilism, stepping onto the incredibly difficult but beautiful path of self-overcoming.
The crucial takeaway here is this really sharp contrast. On one side, you have the red judge and his architecture of retribution, a broken system obsessed with punishment, resentment, and a forced web of equality that just drags everyone down. But on the other side, you have Das Wanderer, the creative architect of the self. This represents a deliberate, active choice to surpass your own limitations no matter how much decay is happening around you.
Now, to actually embody Das Wanderer means you have to reject the tarantula's enforced equality. It means actively choosing what the text calls the glorious inequality of the mountain path. And let's be real, it is not an easy walk. It means you have to embrace the relentless ache of becoming and willingly walk into the fire of your own transformation. Because Das Wanderer understands that true justice isn't some weapon you swing at other people in a courtroom. True justice is an internal struggle. It is the lifelong, grueling effort to surpass your own personal limitations.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a haunting question to think about. The next time you look at the established institutions around us, the rules we all follow, and the ways we try to enforce equality, ask yourself, are our systems of order truly built on justice, or are they merely masking a hidden desire for retribution? Keep an eye out for the tarantula under the floorboards, and remember, the mountain path is always yours to walk.